Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rowing TV Australia. You're with me, your host Ben Ibrahim, and today we're talking about the Olympic journey with Lucy Stephen, who won an Olympic gold medal at Tokyo 2020. Lucy, how have you been?
Good, thanks, Ben. How are you?
I can't complain. Thank you very much for asking. So, how was your first time rowing experience when you first started in 2009?
So once a week, all the rowers would kind of jump onto a bus and we'll go down to Geelong. We rowed out of the Barwon Canoe Club, so pretty much near the start line of the Barwon rowing course. And I think I was pretty lucky because I only started rowing in seniors. So I was, end of year 10 going into year 11. And obviously, not many kids kind of start rowing at that time. So I was the only kind of new girl in the squad. And the coach got the three best rowers in the squad and pretty much said, hold the boat still while I teach Luce how to take a stroke. So I was pretty lucky. And then I guess, yeah, I was in the bottom crew. We were kind of the dribs and drabs. There was myself, who was first time rower, two year 10 girls who they brought up out of intermediates into seniors. And it was also their first year of rowing. We had a coxswain who was past the weight of a coxswain, but tried to do rowing, but had a sore back. So we'll just use her as a coxswain. So a heavy coxswain, and then another girl. And yeah, so it was very much a dribs and drabs crew, but a lot of fun. And I guess I just fell in love with the sport from there. And next goal was to make the first and win head of the lake. And I did that. And yeah, just kept going.
Yep. So Rio 2016. Tell us
Yep.
about Tell us about that experience.
Actually looking at what are we going to send to final qualification regatta in Lucerne. And at the time, obviously, the women's four wasn't a part of the Olympic program. So it was either the pair or the eight. And so they decided to target the eight, which obviously was great. 6 more seats than what we'd usually have, 7 including a coxswain, sorry. So, but the way to do it, they actually put us all into single sculls, which for me was pretty interesting. I'd never sculled in my life. Yeah, so I'd never done a season in the scull. I jumped in it here and there, but never really sculled more than maybe a week max in my life. So to make the sweet boat at the Olympics, I had to learn how to scull. But I think for me, that was quite a crucial moment in my rowing career, and I learnt a lot about myself as an athlete. I think the reason why I'd love the sport is because of the camaraderie that you build being a sweeper. I love rowing with other people. So to be out there in the boat by myself, I didn't have anyone to workshop it with. And if it was going slow, it was only on me. So there was a lot of time for head noise, a lot of time for demons. There was quite a few tears. There's something about the single scull. I don't know what it is, but your glutes just hurt so much more, probably because you actually have to activate them. I'm not really sure. But for me, yeah, like I said, it taught me a lot about myself, and actually my 2K erg dropped by 10 seconds. And I think I credit that a lot to my past results, and it was kind of enough is enough. And the single scull really helped that. And I ended up making the 8 to go to FQR to try and qualify for Rio. They relocated us up into Mossman, and we were looked after by the masters and the members of Mossman Rowing Club, which was obviously amazing. Went over to FQR and failed to qualify, which was pretty gut-wrenching. Myself and the bow seat, Fiona Albert, we kind of flew straight home. We picked up our cars from Sydney and kind of convoyed back to Melbourne. She's a Queenslander, but was living in Melbourne at the time. And I kind of called her. I was like, Fee, what are we going to do? And she'd mentioned that she wanted to run a marathon. She's like, I'm going to start training for a marathon. And I was like, right, I'll do that with you. It'll be good for the head noise, good for the demons, keep me fit. I'm not ready to get back in a boat yet. So we were really supported by the Victorian Institute of Sport, got a bit of a running program. We're still lifting weights. We still did some ergs throughout the week, but the main focus was running. But obviously in the background, there was always this noise of what's going to happen with Russia, what's going to happen with the Olympics. We know that they're not letting the Russian athletes, track and field athletes compete? Is that going to be for all sports? And that cycle, Russia had come 5th, I think, at the World Champs in 2015. So there was an 8 at the Olympics that potentially could be removed, but we didn't really know. And about 4 weeks before the Olympics, we got the kind of whispers started to happen. We started getting kind of the group chat started getting rumbles, and articles started getting sent through the group chat that it was potentially the Russians could be disqualified from the Olympics. And I think it was, I can't remember the date, but I remember it was 8 o'clock one night, and we're due to have a teleconference call at the time with the CEO of the time, Mike Scott, and Bill Tate, who was kind of looking after us, and Jamie Fernandez. And pretty much the message went, there was a lot of calling and waiting for the result to come through of what was going to happen. And pretty much it just got to the point where the quote was, "Girls, what I'm about to tell you can't go anywhere until we release the media, the press release, but pack your bags, you're on to Rio." And it was just this extreme, like one of the girls Fee started like screaming and hyperventilating to the phone for a long time, to the point we had to tell her to put it on mute. I was in shock. I was shaking. It was just laughter, tears, everything. It was just such immense joy that we thought we're never going to get to experience this thing. And now it was kind of like our dreams are all coming true. And by this point as well, we'd made the decision as a crew. We weren't sure what was going to happen, but about 3 or 4 days before, we'd made the decision that everyone would come down and start training in Melbourne just in case. We were like, well, worst that can happen is they tell us no, but let's make sure we get as many sessions as we can in the next 3 weeks. So we're all kind of together. The next day was obviously a whirlwind. A lot of media was surrounded by us. There was a lot of people who said that we shouldn't get to go. There were people that said, what an amazing opportunity. We flew in the night of the opening ceremony. So I remember getting in, and the opening ceremony was up on the TVs around the village. And we did a couple of sessions, and we went down the course, and I became an Olympian. But it was a really hard experience. I think it was such a build up to get there, and you weren't going, and then we got to go. And then we did the heat, and I think that was when reality set in of what not training for 2.5 months does. Obviously, you're a fair way off the pace. Yeah. And the next day, so we had a day off, and then we had the repechage, I think. And the next day I was walking around the village. I just took myself out for a walk, and I was feeling pretty down and pretty flat because I was living my dream. I'd, pictured this for 4 or 5 years, and years before that as well, before I even made my first senior team. And all of a sudden I was there, and I wasn't as fit as I wanted to be. And I wanted to go there and be the fittest and be the best I was and aim for a medal. And of course I was still there doing that, but I knew that I hadn't done the training that I wanted to do, and I hadn't had the build up that I wanted to have. So I was pretty flat. And at the end of the walk, I saw my coach, who was coaching the 8, Mark Fangenhol, and we have a pretty good relationship, and we're pretty close. He was always pretty honest with me and told me what's what. And yeah, he'd just been over at the gift shop buying his kids some fun little toys. And I was like, "Oh, hey, Fang." He's like, "How you going, Luce?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty flat." And he's like, "Of course you are. This isn't it for you. This isn't how you wanted to be here, and you'll come back and you'll get kind of what you deserve. You just have to trust this." And for me, it was, I guess, the kind of light bulb moment that I needed of, you have this amazing opportunity that potentially I couldn't have got. You just never know. And it was about going there and watching and learning as much as I could, and immersing myself in the village life, and immersing myself in what the Olympics were. And so often you hear anything can happen at the Olympics. You can have a 3-time world champion not make the A final. You can have the winner of the World Cup 3 not make the A final. You can have Olympic champions not medal. Like, it's anything can happen. So it was about seeing it, living it, and breathing it, and just submerging myself in it. to make sure that when I came back, I wasn't one of those people that missed out. So a lot of talking there, sorry. But yeah, it was a big journey for me. And I think all those things that happened, one of my favorite, my kind of go-to song that I listened to all last cycle was this song called The Bull by Kip Moore. And it's like the last kind of words of the song is, thanks to the Bulls have bucked me off. And I think that's kind of what I've immersed myself in. You have all these amazing opportunities and you learn from them, but the Bulls that buck you off are the ones that stick with you and the ones that teach you to, I guess, never get bucked off again.